Hi, I'll be picking up where I left off in the last video in the chapter on the brace from Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach's Versuch über die wahre Art das Klavier zu spielen. Im ersten Falle findet man ihn, Figur 51, bei gehenden Noten A, bei springenden B, bei Einschnitten C, bei Kadenzen D, bei Fermaten E, ex abrupto sowohl bei dem Anfänge F als in der Mitte G, nach einem Vorschläge am Ende H, über einer wiederholten Note I, über der folgenden nach dieser wiederholten, wenn sie nicht aufs Neue wiederholt wird. Sie mag gehen K oder springen L, ohne Vorschlag mit solchem über diesem M, nach diesem und so weiter. Since what we do now is follow the score, and since the composers we mainly focus our attention on have already added ornaments to their compositions, and masterfully so at that, and I'm being serious there, they really did add their ornaments masterfully. You know, if you look at Mozart, you will see, you know, a perfect use of ornamentation. Since our Urtext editions, like those from G. Henley Verlag and Bärenreiter, are stellar and beyond reproach. Now there's a little bit of sarcasm creeping in. Since academic standards have reached levels of unparalleled excellence, now it's taken over. How can this information really be anything but redundant? Do we need it anymore? What use will it be to regular pianists who have no intention of adding their own ornamentation to the pieces they play and who don't plan on specializing? What good will it do them? Well, while it will serve those interested in, let's say, decorating fermatas or fantasizing, or those who might want to vary the repeat of a section by adding embellishments, or serious composers who might consider ornamentation to be a means of expression too valuable to discount or discard. It will also help regular pianists with no such specialist ambitions, who just want to play the piece as is, in that they will be better able to spot braces that haven't been given the sign of the brace. I won't go into it now, because Bach will be addressing this in the course of the chapter, but I will offer this as food for thought. If you were to look through a complete edition of Mozart's piano sonatas, from his first sonata onwards, it could be that you might notice a complete absence of the sign of the brace in those earlier sonatas. The first one might appear in that Dürnitz sonata in the Rondo and Polonaise, the second movement of that sonata. I don't remember the key numbers. Yeah, so that would be food for thought. And just like a wrong jigsaw piece, an incorrectly placed ornament, and that could mean the right ornament in the wrong place or the wrong ornament in the right place, will not only be itself wrong, but will also negatively affect that which surrounds it, either coming before or after it. And that can even mean, beyond the singing line being obscured, the difference of a passage in a piece being playable or unplayable. So that's how much damage that can do. That can make something that would normally be possible to play, impossible to play. And that's the sort of thing, Lilliput, the Roll of Honor, they won't give you the information that's needed to turn the impossible possible. What they'll do is they'll tell you about rotation. They'll tell you about practicing with the metronomes, breaking it up into rhythms. They'll give you an exercise their teacher told them, and they'll write some clever, what Chopin called gymnastics. And they'll do it in the name of Chopin and in the name of all these people. They'll do that. And they'll have you running on the hamster wheel, doing cage activity, getting nowhere because none of these things work. Because the success of these tips is not based on how true they are or how well they work. It's not based on them actually pointing you to the correct answer. They are based on how much you fall for them. How many people fall for it. So they like those tips when they find that everybody they tell them to falls for it. That's what makes a good tip, not how effective it is, not if it'll actually help the person, but if people will believe it and they can give their masterclass, talk their waffle and collect their money and go again. And you get your cage activity to, it's like somebody giving you a PlayStation in prison. You love that person because it makes your stay in prison less unbearable. But what you'll realize, what's going to happen is you're going to get sick of the PlayStation and you're going to still be in prison, and you're going to realize that you'll never get out of prison. You'll be in prison for the rest of your life. And you won't be so happy with the person. Instead of freeing you, bringing you into the world of music, that they left you there and they threw a measly PlayStation at you, which gave you provided limited distraction, but did nothing for your, to help your situation, or nothing to serve your cause. And your cause is to be a free person, to escape the cage. So what they'll tell you, they won't tell you, hold on, this ornament is incorrect. That's why you can't play it. They'll tell you to practice with the metronome, practice it hand separately, play it in rhythms, tapping, rotation, count out loud, all these things. And then if it still doesn't work, they'll tell you, sorry, some people are given talent and some people aren't. I've seen, YouTubers, very popular YouTubers, who'll dish their poison, with all their sweetness, and that they talk like they care so much, but they're only self-serving, they're only interested in themselves. And they'll crush your hopes and crush your dreams, telling you what is needed to be a pianist. And they'll serve it with this sweet, with the sweet flavoring, but it's poison. Yeah, I've seen Mitsuko Ushida, whatever you call, that piano player asked, what does it take? And I didn't stick around for the answer, but I know it'll be that same stuff. And after feeding you that, collecting your money for all those things that help you no little, not one bit, they'll tell you it's all your fault that you still can't play the piano. And they have no right to do that, because I can come along and show how untalented they are, what crap piano players they are. I'll drive them into the ground, and not many people can do that. They are bullies, and I can take on bullies. And I can show that they're the ones who don't deserve to be piano players, that they're the ones who should be run out of town. I can show them just exactly how bad they are. So they won't tell you any of this. They'll tell you all the things to do, because nothing exists in the cage. The rules of nature, the laws of nature don't apply. That means, regardless of what it is, metronome work, rotation, all these things are going to solve everything, solve the ridiculous, solve the things that defy nature. And when they don't work, which is obvious, for somebody in the know, it's obvious they don't work. You'll be made feel bad about yourself because they don't work. You won't be, they won't share the secret with you that, remember that thing we told you, it was a load of bollocks. They won't tell you that. They'll say, not everybody is born with the gifts, one is needed. And I say talent is a myth. And a more evolved race of human beings in the future will point to me and say, I was the one who was right. Among all those Lilliput people, I was the one who was correct. And as a follow-on to that, what Bach says in this paragraph can also be useful, in that it could help regular pianists who don't want to specialize, but who do want to be able to play their pieces well, spot braces that have been incorrectly placed by the great Urtex gods. God forbid that they would ever incorrectly place an ornament or a brace. But should they have done it, well then this will help regular people who want to play the piano spot those mistakes. And all those mistakes can potentially turn something that's possible to play into something that's impossible to play. And as well, the roll of honor. They get by as well because of their superior pianos. A lot of what they do will be down to the piano. Like this piano here will be like, €8,000 worth. Whereas their pianos are €80,000. If they didn't have those pianos, the stuff they do, which is stuff that belongs in the cage, it doesn't belong in the world of music, it would not be possible. What you hear me doing is on a piano that doesn't work properly, that has a lot of shortcomings, that forces mistakes with me because of keys that are too slow, keys that are too loud, keys that are too soft, that have no tone. It's racked with problems. And what I am presenting to you is what you can achieve on such a piano with so many handicaps. I have to slow things down because the keys don't play work to the proper speed. And it doesn't matter about the speed of the keys, but what's important is that all the keys work at the same speed, which is not the case here. So I have to watch out. I can't be in the world of music. I always have to compensate for the fact that this piano can't follow me into that world. So that's what you get to hear when you hear my demonstrations, my pieces, is you are hearing what you can achieve on a bad piano. Whereas they are trying to pass off that what they tell you is the key to becoming a good piano player. They use the qualities of the piano to make it by, but such pianos will be out of the reach for many people. They're just not, you know, unless you're super rich, you're not going to have the same pianos. It's all designed to fool you. And you know what that means? What the cost of being fooled is? The cost of it is spending a life where you do not realize your potential. There will be many things in the book where one's understandable initial reaction could be, this isn't relevant anymore, or this isn't relevant to what I am after, or what I want. And I can speak for myself when I say that whenever I thought that, and I have thought that when I was looking at the book for myself, the circumstances have always proven me wrong. And sometimes it'll be, and what I'll be pointing out, it'll be the deficiencies, where, you know, the likes of G. Henley Verlag, regardless that Lilliput will all praise them. I heard Evgeny Kissin in a video where he presents his compositions saying that G. Henley Verlag are the best. I mean, that can be confused with that they are actually able to do their job properly. They can't do their job properly. And everybody thinks they're so amazing. And just because they do does not mean that they aren't remiss in their duties. And it is those things that they neglect, that they don't recognize, that they don't pay attention to, that are beneath them, that make many things which are vitally relevant seem completely irrelevant nowadays. The consideration of where an ornament occurs can play a very important role when determining the correct choice of ornament. Plus, what we are hearing is, in fact, Bach's analysis of each of those situations those examples illustrate. What's going on in his head when he looks at them? By considering them, you are effectively getting into Bach's head. And what's the end result of that? So what you're getting here is the result of Bach breaking down what he sees. And so if you were to witness Bach being presented one of those figures that he provided here, and say, you know, and somebody was to say to Bach, okay, what do you make of this? You will be getting you're getting here part of what Bach would say when he breaks, when he analyzes what he's looking at. So you're getting clued into how Bach thinks. And if you can think like Bach, what's the end result of that? You know, you'll be able to finish his sentences. So the brace is found with notes going in stepwise motion. Figure 51A. With notes leaping, figure 51B. And with any of these, the 4-finger brace could potentially be used. So playing the brace with 4 fingers, that could be potentially used in these 2 examples. At the cutting in, the Einschnitt at C. So first off, the sign has been positioned incorrectly by Bärenreiter. It should be directly over the A and not coming in between the B appoggiatura and the A. Its position can be compared with how they position the sign in figure 51D for anyone who wants to dispute where they positioned it. So I'm just telling you that. One can't assume they are correct. Whenever there is something that doesn't add up, check to see if they haven't made an error in their rewriting of the examples, because their first move will always be to blame Bach for anything they can't do. In my ongoing quest to properly figure out what the Einschnitt is, the cutting in, it can be seen here again that the example ends with a half cadence. So instead of the B appoggiatura going to C, it goes to an A. So one could imagine an interrupted cadence, chord 5 to chord 6 in the key of C major. Such half cadences seem to be an element of the Einschnitt, as I've noticed before in other examples of the Einschnitt. Could as well the Einschnitt be a phrase end? And could the best translation of Einschnitt, instead of the cutting in, be simply the cut, where the line is cut? So, and I'll have written it on the screen in the translation, at cuts. And if I call it the cut, could that be the best word in English for being able to relate to what Bach is referring to when he talks about an Einschnitt? But as well, if all cuts are phrase ends, that does not mean that all phrase ends are cuts. That is, cuts are a subdivision of phrase ends. That translation, in my opinion, does throw light on the Einschnitt, which means we are getting to know Bach better. And you've heard it here first. You're not gonna hear anybody mention the Einschnitt. You're not going to hear anybody explain it adequately so that you can understand it. And the key is, are you able to spot it then when it comes up? And when you think, yeah, in the cut, you can think, yeah, well, now I could notice where the Einschnitt happens when Bach says it, and I can understand more. I'm getting to know Bach better. He's the language barrier is breaking down. So to call it the cut, the Einschnitt the cut, which might seem fairly obvious, I mean not for an English speaker, but for a German speaker, that's a bit like a eureka thing for me. And yeah, maybe I'm an idiot, but sometimes, the things can take it can take a long time to figure out the right answer. But, that doesn't matter when all you're interested in is the right answer. But many people aren't interested in the right answer. They're only interested in what they can get, in how they can exploit others. So to make their life in the cage more bearable, they prey on others in the cage. and take what they have. Even though there are only crumbs, there are only scraps in the cage, it is a place where, the people are completely malnourished. There's not enough to go around. And even though it's so pitiful what's in the cage, people are still trying to take from each other. So they have it better than others in the cage. I mean, obviously it's human nature, but that's what's going on. Whereas there's nobody in the world of music, and the fruits are plentiful. I have given away things on this channel that if other people were to have them, they'd cherish them as their greatest fortune. And I've just given them away. They're there for everybody. And they would be kept guard behind a paywall if others had them. But that is the world of music. The riches are so great that what would be a fortune to anybody else is, you can give it away because there's so much more for you. The more you give away, the more you get. It's like you free up space to get more, and there's more than you can possibly carry in the world of music. So the Einschnitt is the cut. A cut will be a phrase end, and then you can start to imagine all the characteristics or the elements of that, of a phrase end, of a cut. The implications, what happens. And all this, when you're in the world of music, all these things will happen naturally because they happen in accordance with the laws of nature. The laws of nature play a role, and when you are in harmony with those laws of nature, you will move as you're meant to move. And if there's 1,000 things that need to be done, nature will know those 1,000 things, and nature will have you do those 1,000 things if you are in harmony with nature. And that's why those in the cage, what they'll do is they'll try to memorize the 1,000 things. And they'll try and do those 1,000 things because nature doesn't exist in the cage. Nothing exists in the cage. And so they'll artificially impose those 1,000 things. But let's say it's not 1,000 things this time. Let's say it's 1,005 things. Those in the cage, the ones who are on top, because their shopping list is so long, who've memorized 1,000 things, they'll get it wrong because they don't have the 5 things that are missing. Whereas those in the world of music will, when they encounter that section, they'll have the 1,005 things that need to be done because they're working in harmony with nature. And these are, what I say here will all be reinforced as we go on in this chapter. Nothing of what I say is, made up. I'm not trying to, satisfy a personal vendetta. And I don't really want to talk like this in these videos. And every time before I record these videos, I say to myself, don't be talking like this. And it's like it has to come out. Like I have no choice. It has to come out. So I don't know. The other thing though is this is a YouTube video. It can't hurt you. It has no other influence over you. Like, so you're not actually in danger listening to it. You can reject everything I say. It doesn't matter. It's not there to be, it's there to be considered. And if it's a take that you haven't heard before, well then it's broadening your horizons. Whether it's true or not, you can think afterwards, well, I've been there, I've experienced that, or I've seen that, and it's wrong. But find out that it's wrong, check it before you decide it's wrong. Because if it happens to be right, if it happens to be the truth, well, by deciding it's wrong, the only person you're doing a disservice to is yourself. because you're denying yourself the truth. You're denying yourself the correct answer, and you're denying yourself the chance to escape the cage. So one also finds it at cadences D. At fermatus, figure 51E. And the braces over the Abzug, the pull off or the withdrawal, which are always executed weaker than their preceding appoggiaturas. And bending notes on a guitar. When you first bend the string a full or half step and then strike the string, so like on an electric guitar, let's say. So when you first bend the string a full or half step and then strike the string, that would be the Vorschlag or the appoggiatura. And then allowing the string to return to its original pitch without stopping the sound, that will be the Abzug, and probably best represents what's going on. So you're drawing it off the, and you can maybe imagine that act of just letting the string back to its original position. That it's really, and the sound is, the new pitch is drawn off the initial pitch of that bent string up a full tone. And with guitar, with electric guitar, the more accurate, the more precise that full step is, the better the effect that practice is going to have. And I would say, yeah, that would probably best represent what's going on. And that will be the effect one will be trying to capture on the piano. With the piano, because you have to strike each key for it to sound. You can't do that like in a guitar where you only strike once and you get and that one, kind of strike of the string can cater for both the appoggiatura and the Abzug. On the piano, you have to strike each key individually. So what you're going to be feeling the effect of that appoggiatura. And you will find all the information about appoggiaturas and their performance in the videos on my channel that cover the chapter on appoggiaturas, of which there is a playlist. All of Bach's information can be used when considering guitar solos. It can all be used in a, and that's, and you can gain insight into, what guitar players, when they're soloing, what they're doing with that. ex abrupto, figure F. So ex abrupto means out of suddenness. Obviously abrupto and abruptly. So we see the brace coming in right at the beginning with no forewarning, as the figure is there to demonstrate. But also again, in this example, in the second bar, Bach has an Einschnitt, a cut. And as he said in figure C, the brace will be found at the Einschnitt, or the cutting in, or the cut, so over the F. And is that a phrase end? You can try the figure for yourself and wonder, or maybe you can hear it in my demonstration. So this ex abrupto can happen in the middle as well as the beginning, as Bach illustrates in figure 51G. It is coming in right at the beginning of a new phrase in a new key. And it will come after an appoggiatura at the end of a piece, ha. One can see Bach wrote the accidental to the right, since the F sharp comes later in the brace. So just to refer back to what Bach said in that appendix. At figure I, K and L, Bach is providing some useful observations. At K, one can see the continuation to an E in the right hand and a C in the left, indicated, in conform to the text. So, if the note after the repeated note is not itself repeated, then it could have a brace. So if that D in figure K were to be repeated, the brace would not work. Yeah, that's what Bach is saying. You can see in I that Bach repeated the D. But does it still count if there's a rest there? Bach is providing additional information to that what's in the text for those who are completely interested in knowing everything he knows. Beethoven being one of them. And if I was to say I'm one of them too, that would only be to communicate to you the type of person you are listening to. It's in no way, sort of comparing myself to Beethoven. But Beethoven was interested in knowing everything Bach knows, and I am too. And that's, so the person bringing you this book is, they're my intentions, or that's what's motivating me, or that's where I'm coming from. So why did he not place the brace over the D in figure I? Because that itself is repeated. To put it another way, maybe, for the sake of connecting the three figures together, if K, L, and L don't occur, do I? That could be a way of connecting them, but I am the Lord your God. You shan't put false gods before me. Don't hold that as the ultimate truth if it's not. Because, it'll be limiting. Because you could, discover a pattern or a common thread that is more the formula of knowing how it works. But I just say that just to connect the three together for now. In figure L, the repeated notes are followed by a jump. The note following the repeated note is not itself repeated. And you see Bach gives us the extra info that a rest between doesn't cancel that out. He wouldn't have had to provide examples with rests in them, but he did. So when he says when the note itself is not repeated, he could have just written an example where the note is directly repeated, but instead he added a rest to that example. And again, he added a rest to the example where that note after the repeated note itself is not repeated. So he's providing extra information beyond the mere text alone. That's why it pays off to pay attention, to look and wonder. So if you're wondering about the rest in figure I, it's expanded upon in L. Bach says the braces occur without an appoggiatura. K is an example of the brace being introduced without an appoggiatura, whereas I and L could potentially be with appoggiaturas, although in L the brace does not come with the potential appoggiaturas, whereas M is quite definitely over an appoggiatura. The similarity of the situation at M with its repeated notes can be compared to that of the other three figures. So 4 manifestations of the same pattern. So over such appoggiaturas, for anyone who doesn't know what an appoggiatura is, they are those things written into the score by the likes of Mozart so that people like you and me don't ornament that note. That's what they are. An anti-ornament safeguard. The top people will tell you that. The biggest experts who want to tell you everything else of how it really is. So the ornament is brought in with the appoggiatura in M. If any of those Lilliput professors or YouTubers that have used that explanation of the appoggiatura on their students or subscribers or their viewers, if they feel the need to educate Bach, you know, that he's not allowed to ornament the appoggiatura, if they want to say, oh, Bach, you probably didn't know this, but you're not allowed to ornament that appoggiatura. It's there so you don't ornament it. If they want to do that, they can do so in the comments. And here would be another situation where one would use 4 fingers to play the brace. In dealing in specifics, Bach is providing insight into the nature of the brace. This is all about how music exists in the world of music, where the laws of nature apply. We are getting perspective from someone who walks in the world of music, where there are laws of nature, where everything isn't just solved by a metronome or the deaf man approach, or by rotation or any other gymnastics, nonsense gymnastics they like to, you know, throw at you. They throw it and see how much you actually fall for, how gullible you actually are. So when you give consideration to what Bach is saying in this paragraph, you might start to spot patterns in the scores of the great composers that have never before been drawn to your attention. And the accuracy or veracity of what Bach is claiming here can be checked in the scores of Mozart and Beethoven, for example. You know, so if you're taking lessons in Juilliard or the Mozarteum or the Paris Conservatoire or any of these elite universities, none of those patterns will have been drawn to your attention. Even though they were there sitting right in front of these professors their entire careers, right in front of these Roll of Honor people their entire careers, they'll have never noticed it, because there's nothing exists in the cage. Okay, I'll leave it there for now, and I'll pick up where I left off in the next video. So, thanks. Bye.